Hi, it's Jamie Smart here with another Clarity Pro interview with a person who's getting the principles out there in their own way. I've done a bunch of these with a variety of people you may have seen, and I've really been looking forward to this one because I'm going to be doing this interview with someone who I've worked with over a couple of years and who we've shared all kinds of good experiences together. She's a coach, she's a podcaster, and she's author of the book Taming the Tech Monster. Anke Hermann, it's great to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm quite excited to be here.
Yeah, well, me too. And the place I love to start these is to ask, what first sparked your interest in the principles behind clarity?
Yeah, it's funny. It makes me go back in the middle of sewing business stress kind of thing. I ran a sewing business for about 15 years, and the biggest and the only challenge I ever experienced in that sewing business was that my lovely Spanish clients were basically stressing the life out of me, or so it felt at the time, right? And so there was this constant sense of pressure that, I would do my best to give my clients what they asked for. And every time I did that, there was a bit like, oh, okay, that's lovely, but now I need this. And then they always needed something more, something faster. So that level of pressure and stress kind of built up slowly. It built up very slowly. I'm very masochistic that way. It took me 8 years to hit a point where I felt I couldn't go on. And it was this, basically nose in the dirt breakdown. I don't know whether it was like a burnout or whatever you call it, but I really felt like that. And I literally, and that was 2012, and I literally looked for jobs. But then I was like right in the middle of the, economic crisis in Spain. So there were no other jobs. So there was, in hindsight, a gift because, it made me have a closer look at what on earth I was actually doing. And it was really the first time that I took ownership. And there was this one moment where I was literally furious, where somebody wanted something and I'm like, bickering on. And I'm like, for God's sake, bloody Spanish clients, And then there was like, I hate all my clients. Then I was, no, it's only the Spanish. And then it's like, well, no, hang on. I'm coming to a point hearing myself say, this sewing business would be great if I could just change the Spanish, right? And so that sounded weird even to me in my stressed out state. That sounded like ridiculous even in my stressed out space. And even then, the next step was like, well, no, it's not that they're out to get me. They don't even think that far. And that was like, oh, yeah, that's true. They just going about.
You saw it wasn't about you in a way?
That's the thing. That was really the thing that I saw, that when they went and wanted their dress today instead of tomorrow, and they just went about their life. Nobody got up in the morning out to mess around with the dressmaker, right? And there was this really like, oh, so this isn't about me. And that was really this giant insight that then kind of led to a few others. And basically, long story short, that sewing business turned around, like my experience of it. My clients never knew, right? But my experience of it literally shifted 180 degrees. And so there I was thinking, oh, I can't be the only one having stumbled into a challenge like that on the way of turning this passion of mine into a business. And then I had this thought, I wanted to support other people in a similar situation. So off I go, having a software development background, being very geeky. The first thing I did was looking for software platforms, right? So when I was then thinking, oh yeah, coaching, that would be something. How do I go about that? First thing I looked was for software. And I came across Jigsaw Box that Nicola Bird did at the time. And so I ended up on her mailing list. And the first thing I saw in one of these emails was a program advertised that was called Coaching from the Inside Out. Right. And that really, really caught my attention because it was, that was my experience. That had been my experience, that the entire change had come from the inside. And so I had a look, and I didn't end up signing up for that program at the time, but it had there was this what is this inside out business? And next thing I heard was 3 principles. And next thing I knew, I found out about the Clarity Coach training, and rest is history, so to say.
So I just wanted to check, Anke, if I understand correctly, you'd been really kind of stressing out and under a lot of pressure, and it had kind of built and built and built for years. And you kind of spontaneously decided, I need to have a look at this. And then you started having insights. So this is before you started exploring the principles or anything like that. Yeah. But you recognized that those insights had come from within. That's so cool, because that's at the heart of everything we're talking about. Exactly. It's built in. It's not like already there. A technique you need to do or a practice or anything like that. You've already got it. I love that. Yeah. So then what happened?
And it was really that finding out about these principles, it was oh, now that explained everything I had experienced. Now it basically all made sense, both parts. My pushy Spanish clients all of a sudden didn't look that pushy anymore, right? That whole experience, but also then even going further back, thinking even that whole crazy idea of, ditching in an IT job, moving to Spain and start off I often think of you when you say, well, have an idea, try it out. That's how I built my sewing business. That's exactly what I did. And I always felt that wasn't I didn't do it properly, right? So I never realized that was actually the proper way. And the more I understood about the more I read and learned about the principles, it was that thing about not giving a rat's ass about well, let's just see what happens. That actually made it possible.
Well, it's so interesting, because that thing of have an idea, try it out, test it out, see what happens, and that feeling of that not being the right way to do it. Well, it turns out that almost every entrepreneur in the world, that's their approach. Have an idea, try it out. Have an idea, try it out. Whereas when we go to school, we're told that the right way to do things is to, do all your research and map it all out and plan it. And it's not to say that there's not a place for that, but it's that actually we're built for reality, and we're much better at tinkering and trying things out and taking action than we are at figuring it all out in our own heads. So, absolutely. So how did you get from there to writing your book?
I'm sort of big jumps like that. It's just my thing. No, but see, what I just wanted to add to the other bit is that having an idea and trying it out really honors the fact that we can't predict what we're going to think, and that we can't predict what other people will think. Right. So it's really trying something out is really the only way to find out. You can't plan the life out of something, and you miss out so many great opportunities that if you kind of think, oh, well, that makes sense, and just follow that hunch, it's amazing what happens. Yeah. So the tech monster, that was actually quite interesting. It was, so I started out with that very clear purpose of helping people build initially their sewing business, but I quickly realized I don't really care what your passion is, whether it's sewing, some other craft, or whether it's a cause or a mission. I need you to be passionate, because I'm very enthusiastic, and I can't be more enthusiastic than you are about your thing. So I need people to have a passion for something. But so my initial focus was really helping them to find that inside out way and tap into and really see it as a creative process, where it isn't something where you can just sort of follow somebody else's footsteps and well, you can duplicate something somebody else has done, but you can't create your own thing.
So is this with coaching clients?
Yeah.
Got it.
So that was my focus. That's what I wanted, right? So and so slowly that's built up. Now the funny thing was, all the time, like there was almost like kind of people tugging at me, and people say, oh, I want to do this course, but I don't really know where to start. I'm like, yeah, but that's easy, right? That's the tech stuff. That's easy. And I literally didn't pay attention that, while especially in the beginning when I was really focused on people who built a sewing business and they weren't interested in what I had to say at all, right? So, and I'm trying really hard in this direction, whereas all the while people tagging at me from the other, like people pulling at me from the other side. It's like, can you help me with this tech? How do you do this? How do I do that? How do I choose? How do I set this up? How do I even know where to start? And especially now with everybody stuck at home and everybody having to get online, even if they so far thought, oh, well, I should be doing this one day, but now it became urgent and important. So I thought, okay, like it felt wrong not to offer that kind of support to people. And quickly it became apparent that, as always, it's never about the tech, is it? Right?
Well, it's so funny you say that. Yeah, when I was, because you and I have a shared background in technology. So when I was a project manager and running these big programming teams and stuff, I used to have a saying, which is rule number one, it's never a technology, it's always a people problem. Never a technology problem, it's always a people problem. Rule number two, even when they swear it's a technology problem, it's still a people problem. And
yes.
That's what I heard in what you just said. But say more about that, Anke. What's your experience with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's when people come to me with this like, oh, I don't know, but I'm not technical, and I'm like sort of totally intimidated by this. What gets in the way is all the thinking they have around that. Yeah. What they should be knowing, how long it should take to learn something totally new. And what they hate about it isn't the technology, it's the feeling of frustration, it's feeling stupid that people do not like very much. So it's all, and most of the time it's really made up, right? Because whatever we deal with technology-wise, what normal people deal with when you want to build an online course or build a website or start a podcast or any of those, or a membership thing, whatever, the technology, that's not rocket science, right? So people buy a new washing machine and they don't know how it works. And they don't go, oh, but I don't know. They just get out the manual and they figure it out, and they trust that they can figure it out.
They don't say I'm a washing machine-ophobe.
Exactly, and that's the thing. And so what I'm intending to do is to help people look at technology just like any old other thing that you've not dealt with before. So you have the capacity to figure it out.
And how do people work with you, Anke? Are they hiring you to coach them through specific technology objectives, or what's the nature? Because what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, I really like it. You had this idea of how you wanted to be working with people and that sort of thing, and using the principles. And actually, by kind of following your wisdom and paying attention to the signals that were there, you ended up doing something which you've kind of found, a lot of, I'm jumping about a bit. A lot of times people are going to me, how do I decide on my niche and how do I find my niche? And my thing I always say is, it'll find you.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is you're now sharing the principles in the context of doing work that was kind of staring you in the face and tapping you on the shoulder while you were busily looking somewhere else for your niche or whatever. What's the nature of that work? And if I've described that right, what's the nature of that?
Well, there's really two ways that I've found to work really well and are a lot of fun for all involved. And depending on, so basically all the work I do is with people who are in the early stages of getting that business off the ground, when they're still a bit like, I don't know where to start, and I don't know, or they've been fuffing around a bit for a while and hasn't been lifting off. So now sometimes they have something concrete. I want to start a podcast, right? Or I need that website. I don't know. And I don't know how to integrate it with MailChimp. And I don't know how that's going to work together with the other thing. And so we work together, like we'll do it together. And that's literally, practically, that's a Zoom screen share, right? And either I drive and they watch, or they drive and I talk them through. So
you're actually working with them to set stuff up rather than just saying, here's how you do it, you go do it. You're working.
No. We do it together, because I don't like homework, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to do it for people, but then everybody goes and tells people what to do, and then they have to go do it, but then they get stuck somewhere, and then they go, and then it gets thrown into too hard basket and never do it. So we actually, the fastest way is actually just do it together. So
Got it.
That hooks, that basically, I always say, there's nothing more addictive than progress. And when you see this thing, emerge in front of you without all the detours, when there's an error message, I go, yeah, don't worry about that. We'll do this, so you kind of just go over the speed bumps. Like, that's the technology that I bring to the table. But then when they've done a couple of those, I notice there is a lot more playful attitude around that, right?
Well, that's it. And I love the way you put it. There's nothing more addictive than progress. There's something about that kind of endorphin hit of, oh, that works. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Like, it's success breeds success.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this, Anke. How in that work, because on the face of it, someone looking in might go, oh, so basically Anke's doing technology setup with people. But what I heard in what you say is that your understanding the principles is one of the things that kind of supports you in that and guides you in that. How is your understanding of the principles playing into that work with people?
People come with the tech issue. But then, first of all, at least half the time is not technical at all. It's going back like, what do you actually want to do here?
Yeah.
And is that course thing even the best way of doing that? And what's taking you so long? What's stopping you? What's getting in the way? So like a good chunk of that is coaching anyway, right? Yeah. And it's really that pointing out assumptions or misunderstandings where people feel they're dealing with reality or facts when they buy into their stories, and I just love poking into that and breaking that open. And for example, the classic is, I'm not good at tech, right? Mm. I just don't understand that, right? And then for me, the biggest, such a beautiful moment is when a client says to me, she says, oh, I've programmed the new TV, the new remote for the new TV. I've programmed it, right? And somebody might think, yeah, what's the big deal? She goes, I would have never even tried, right? But now I'm like, well, I can work it out. And, basically trusting into their resilience, right? Trusting that they have innate resilience, and whatever that screen thing does, you can handle it. And trusting their creativity, that whatever situation comes, you're going to be able to come up with a solution, right? And so that's really what it's all about.
I love it. And I love that you've followed your own kind of wisdom and inspiration to find, like my guess is, if you'd kind of written out a plan 5 years ago, as, okay, what should I do with? It wouldn't be this. And yet you've discovered it. You've kept taking the next step and taking the next step. There's a quote I love by E.L. Doctorow. He said, he was talking about writing books, actually. He said, writing a book is like driving at night in fog. You can only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole journey that way. Well, it looks to me like that's not only true of books and businesses, it's true of life. And like, I know you and me and many of the other people I've been speaking to, we've been touched by this understanding and given a glimpse of kind of something that's calling us, a direction to move in, and we couldn't even necessarily put form on it and say, yeah, this is what it's going to be like. It's just a sense of, yeah, over there, over there, over there. But if you can only see 20 feet in front of you, but you can make the whole journey that way. To me, you're
that
living.
Makes me cry still every time I hear it.
Yeah. So that's all we've got time for today. But where can people find out more about you? Where can they read your book? Where can they listen to your podcast? Tell us all.
Well, there's basically two places. AnkeHermann.com, that's my website, everything, that's home base, that everything has a link there. You can find the podcast there, the book there. There is also passionbusinesspodcast.com that takes you straight to the podcast, and tamingthetechmonster.com that takes you to the links for the book. And there's also a free resource vault and community with lots of tutorials and stuff like that. So to to basically prove that scary monster is just a friendly little dragon that wants to play.
Beautiful. Well, I really encourage people to check all those resources out. And thanks again for being here with me. And thanks for everything you're doing, Anke. It's really cool.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was lovely to see you again and to talk to you.
Likewise.